HARK, we are here. It is time for another episode of Star Wars Unlimited. If you haven't noticed, Cunning Month is here. My favorite aspect gets the whole house preview for all the different things that Cunning is capable of. We've got Cunning previews from the FFG stream. We've got Cunning previews from creators. We've got a Cunning preview from Twitter. We've got the Article and Aspect preview stream to go over. It is a Cunning month, which means this week is a Cunning week. So join me as we go over all the fun Cunning stuff and showcase why Cunning is my favorite aspect, and it might be one of the best. We're going to start off a little bit out of order, but our first two previews come from the Artificery podcast, link below, and we got two units, one for ground, one for space. So let's start with the ground unit. We have here the ISB Agent, a one cost Cunning Villainy ground unit, 1 power, 3 health, Imperial. When played, you may reveal an event from your hand. If you do, deal 1 damage to a unit. It is a common, number 176 out of 252, and it is an SOR. ISB Agent here, full villainy, because ISB is absolutely villainy. This is a quick little round 1 or later. Basically, you can use it at any point in time. That's going to do a couple of different things. It's a sneaky little dude that's not really going to be a huge threat when he drops onto the board, which means you can continue poking with him. 1 damage, 1 damage, 1 damage, 1 damage. But he's also going to allow you, if you have an event that you want to reveal, that's something that you want your opponent to know or don't care if your opponent knows, you can plink another unit, any unit, ground or space, for 1 damage. This means you can activate something like Tarkin Town if necessary, if you're using a Cunning leader and the Tarkin Town aggression base. You can get rid of a shield. You can activate a bunch of other damage shenanigans. You can finish off a unit that you don't want to worry about having to just attack into. You could even use it to clear off your own things like Super Laser Technician or Mahdi. There's a lot of opportunities available for the ISB Agent, and I think it's a really neat design. Sure, it could have had an additional power, but I honestly think that 1/3 is fine for a 1-drop, something you could drop on round 1 and not worry about its ability, or drop later as just a free pay 1, deal 1 damage to something, and then leave a 3 health body on the field. Fantastic card. I think this is absolutely great, and we'll probably see a lot of play in set 1. Next, we have a space unit. And this is one of my favorite types of TIE fighters. It is the 7th Fleet Defender. This is a 3-cost Cunning Villainy space unit, 3 power, 2 health, Imperial Vehicle Fighter. It is shielded, so when you play it, you give a shield token to it. It is a common, number 180 out of 252 for SOR. For those of you that don't know, one of the big plot threads for Rebel Season 3 was Thrawn coming to Lothal and utilizing Lothal as the manufacturing facility for the new type of TIE fighter, which was the TIE Defender. The idea behind it is that it had more attack power into it, it had shields on it, and certain ones of them also potentially had hyperdrives attached to them, although I think the prototypes didn't. 7th Fleet Defender here is a 3-cost space unit that's going to protect itself from basically all damage for at least 1 instance. So you can use this to help you eliminate one of your opponent's sentinels on the board, to keep pressure in space so that your opponent has to do something to stop 3 damage coming at them every round. Whatever the case may be, these are going to help the Imperial Fighter archetype be able to stick in space and continue doing things. If you play this on round 2 for your 3 cost, and then you play a TIE Advanced while this is still alive at your 4 cost for your round 3 play, this thing now all of a sudden is buffed up with 2 experience tokens and is very hard to clear with just space, and is going to demand an event or a larger cost effect to be able to clear it off the board. Really great representation here for TIE fighters. There's a theme to the last guy and this guy, and if in the video you can figure out the theme, you'll be rewarded later. Our next Cunning cards come by way of the FFG Cunning Aspect stream. We got a lot of cards off that stream. We'll go more over what they talked about for Cunning later, but let's get right into the previews from that stream specifically. We start with the Syndicate Lackeys. 5 cost, Cunning only, ground units, 5 power, 4 health, Underworld, Ambush. Common, 213 out of 252 SOR. Syndicate Lackeys represent the Pike Syndicate. We've seen that in Mandalorian. We've seen that in Clone Wars, I believe, and a couple of other things. Obviously, the design here for them. These guys are actually really cool, and I'm hoping there's a really neat underworld theme that we can start piecing together for both set 1 and set 2, because the speculation is that set 2, Shadows of the Galaxy, is going to be a very heavy underworld slash fringe slash bounty hunter set. All the scum and villainy stuff, spies and smugglers, so on and so forth. And Cunning has a very high representation for Underworld. All but 2 cards, I believe, that are Underworld are currently Cunning, and those are 2 leaders, the Chewbacca Vigilance leader and the IG-88 Aggression leader. But this guy comes in and goes pop for 5, basically 5 cost, delete something that has 5 health, or be able to do something else, clear another unit off the board and survive. This thing is probably not going to survive anything that has 5 health, but it does get you to a point of being able to say, I'm going to help push this other unit that I need to take off the board. And if there's any Underworld synergy in the future, these guys are going to be happy to be a part of that theme, be a part of that deck. Our next card, we had seen the art for a long time ago, but it's now finally time to introduce that seedy little alien from the cantina scene in the first Star Wars movie. We have here Greedo, slow on the draw. 1 cost Cunning ground unit, 3 power, 1 health, Underworld bounty hunter. When defeated, you may discard a card from your deck, the top of your deck. If it's not a unit, deal 2 damage to a ground unit. It is an uncommon, number 204 out of 252 in SOR. Now, Greedo, famously known for not shooting first. There's no debate on this. Han shot first. He, however, gets a neat little effect that allows you to, when he dies, which he's going to deal 2 damage to a ground unit if the card you discard from the top of your deck is not a unit. One of the things we'll talk about later is that one of Cunning's themes is non-units matter within their deck and their hand and their effects. Cunning might be able to get away with running more than 10 to 12 events, depending on how well you think you can formulate your deck and your defenses with that. But Greedo here, again, fits into the Underworld. 3 power. It's a Death Star Stormtrooper with extra text for 1 cost. Sure, it's going to die to anything it attacks, and sure, it's going to die to ping damage or any type of, if there's a future board wipe that does a bunch of damage across the board. It takes very little effort to kill this guy, and even with a shield, it's still very easy to knock him off. He can potentially take something with him, or at least weaken something for future plays, and that's why Greedo is probably a 3 of in every Cunning deck, because he is very, very useful. Next, we have an event that has a keyword or trait that was highly speculated on, and I'm glad it was confirmed in this stream, because it means that at least we know it's something that's going to happen as opposed to it just being hyper speculation. But without further ado, we have Spark of Rebellion, 2 cost Cunning Heroism Spectre event. Look at an opponent's hand and discard a card from it. You can see Kanan here trying to blow up a TIE Advanced prototype. It is a rare, number 200 out of 252 in SOR. This is a fantastic card. This slips in as a 3 of in every Hera deck. Hand control is huge. Because you have the ability to look at your opponent's hand and discard a card from it rather than it being random or opponent's choice, you can always take away the one thing your opponent needs to beat you, or the one thing your opponent needs to get back into the game, or the one thing you just don't want to see. And because Hera ignores the aspect penalty for Spectre cards, characters, and events, that means that you can run Hera plus any other color, whether that's Command Again or Vigilance or Aggression, and still be able to use this without having to worry about the aspect penalty cost. Beyond Spectre, this is still an amazing card for any Cunning Heroism deck, because of that knowledge of your opponent's hand and the ability to take out the one card that they don't want you to take out is huge. Unfortunately, Cunning is also the aspect that happens to have a lot of really good events, as you'll see with the next card as well. It is insane how many good events that Cunning has compared to any other individual aspect, including morality aspects like heroism and villainy. This card is nuts. I don't know what it's going to be represented in the metagame overall. I think that Cunning Aggression is probably going to be one of the better decks in the meta because it is focused on getting that aggression out and pushing and attacking your opponents, and the events will help you, things like Surprise Strike, things like Waylay to get rid of your opponent's stuff, Spark of Rebellion to be able to clear out a card from your opponent's hand, any of the exhaust effects. There's just so many things that can be done with Cunning that it's almost too many things. Next, we have a Villainy event, and this is No Good to Me Dead. 2-cost Cunning Villainy Plan. Exhaust a unit. That unit can't ready this round, including during the regroup phase. This is an uncommon. It is number 186 out of 252 in SOR. So our last card took out a resource from your opponent's hand to eliminate something that they might need for their plans down the line. No Good to Me Dead says, hey, that thing, we're exhausting it. If this is your first action that you take on any given round, that thing stays exhausted no matter what you do to it, unless it leaves the board. It can't ready this round, which means no effects that ready units can ready it. And at the end of the phase, when you do your regroup phase, the end of the round, when you refresh all of your resources and units and any other cards that are exhausted to designate that I'm ready to go to the next turn, that unit doesn't do it either. This is a freeze effect that we see commonly in Magic the Gathering, but it's actually better because it bypasses the ability to be readied at all, period. It's not, it doesn't untap during the next untap phase, or it doesn't ready during the next regroup phase. You cannot ready it at all. This card is insane. This card is insane. That thing's gonna attack me? And it's not limited to ground, it's not limited to space, it's not limited to non-uniques, and it's not limited to non-leaders. Any units, no. That's huge. Cunning has too many good events. That's a really good problem to have, but it's also a really significant problem to have. This is good. I'd play a 3 of this in every deck that I would play Cunning Villainy. Our last card from the FFG stream is the aspect card that we see from all of the other ones. So yes, this is Cunning, and it shows to us a lot of what Cunning is capable of within its specific card as an aspect as a whole, not just the card itself. 4-cost double Cunning, innate event. Choose 2 in any order. Return a non-leader unit with 4 or less power to its owner's hand, so it's like a mini Waylay. Give a unit +4/+0 for this phase, so it's like a mini Surprise Strike. Exhaust up to 2 units, so it's like a mini or a maxi Asteroid Sanctuary or No Good to Me Dead. An opponent discards a random card from their hand, so it's like a less good Spark of Rebellion. It is a legendary. It is number 203 out of 252 in SOR. This hands down is the best double aspect event that deals with the aspect itself. It's better than aggression, it's better than command, it's better than vigilance. Cunning is insanely good. I've reread a couple of the other things. I was thinking maybe command might be better than Cunning. Cunning's just the best one. However, I don't think that it's going to see the most play out of the 4. I think aggression will see the most play because aggression doesn't need to dip into other aspects to be successful at what it wants to do. Cunning does really want to dip into another aspect unless you're really focusing on trying to make sure this card is as useful as possible. I can definitely see people running double Cunning decks just to be able to use this card without the aspect penalty. I don't think I would use this without being double Cunning because 6 cost for this is pretty hefty. But at the barest minimum, being able to take out 3 units on your opponent's board by returning 1 of them to the hand and exhausting 2 for an entire round, that's pretty good. It's not the frozen effect like the last card we saw, but this is still a really, really good card. Also, this was one of the first arts we saw, and there's an interesting tie-in for each of these pieces of art that we'll go into when we get to the FFG stream, but Cunning is bonkers. Why does Cunning have so many good events? I'm telling you. Go back and think about every event we've seen for Cunning and be like, all of these are good. They are all good. Even Asteroid Sanctuary, which I didn't think was good initially, within the context of everything else, I still don't think it's all that great, all that amazing, the best card ever, but it's still a solid event that Cunning can use. So you got to figure out, what am I using for these things? Like, I've got Surprise Strike, I've got Waylay, I've got Shoot First. If I'm Villainy, I've got No Good to Me Dead. If I'm Heroism, I've got Spark of Rebellion. If I'm double Cunning, I've got Cunning. Like, this is insane. There are so many good cards in Cunning as events, and it's not really going to be feasible to do an event deck right now, but as Cunning gets more events, that is insane. Just think about what the possibilities of having an event deck is capable of. We'll see. It's possible. I want it to be possible. The next preview we have comes by way of the Unlimited FFG Twitter account. This was a nice little present they gave us because they didn't have to reveal this early, but this is a highly anticipated card and kind of puts to bed some of the rumors and some of the speculation about leaders that we're going to see in the game, and I think definitely closes out the rest of the leader package for villainy side at least. We're not entirely sure what all the heroism stuff is, but with this confirmed, we pretty much know what the rest of the villainy leaders are going to be, and I'll go over that at the end of this preview. But this is a big one. Today, we are here to showcase Grand Admiral Thrawn, patient and insightful, cunning villainy leader. When the action phase starts, look at the top card of each player's deck. Action: 1 resource, exhaust. Reveal the top card of any player's deck. Exhaust a unit that costs the same or less than the revealed card. Epic action: if you control 6 or more resources, deploy this leader for 3 power and 9 health. It is a rare. It's number 16 out of 252 for SOR. Let's deploy this. 6 cost, Grand Admiral Thrawn, yada yada. 3 power, 9 health, Imperial Official. When the action phase starts, look at the top card of each player's deck. On attack, you may reveal the top card of any player's deck. Exhaust a unit that costs the same as or less than the revealed card. Thrawn is nuts. It's not the Imperial synergy that I was speculating might happen as a result of 2 of the previous cards we saw, which, if you guessed, with the ISB agent and the 7th Fleet Defender being very Thrawn themed, you correctly predicted that the leader we were going to see today was Thrawn. Thrawn's manipulation and information is kind of insane. And the fact that for 1 resource, you can effectively exhaust whatever unit you want so long as it fits that, same as or less than the revealed cost. So if the top card of your deck, if you go, let's say, Cunning Villainy Command, the top card of your deck is the Devastator. Anything that costs 10 or less is getting exhausted that turn. Just gone, right? And you can do that with Thrawn's leader side as an action with a resource, or on his unit side as an attack. But that knowledge of knowing what's on top of your deck and on top of your opponent's deck, you know what they're getting in the future, you know what you're getting in the future, you know, you can pre-plan your resources based upon that information. Or if there's something you need to figure out, like if you're comboing something else that allows you to see the top card of your deck, you can do something like that. Or if you have the ability to shuffle, I don't want this card on top of my deck, I won't have the knowledge later because I can't see it again, but if I can shuffle my deck, it'll at least be something new, right? And then the fact that Thrawn is a 3 power 9 health hero, even if all you want to do is run Imperials, let's say Cunning Command Imperial, I think Thrawn is a better leader than Tarkin. I think Thrawn is a better leader than Krennic. Those 2 want to run kind of pseudo Imperial, definitely Tarkin, but Krennic less so, pseudo Imperial strategies. But the knowledge that Thrawn brings to players, and the fact that he is just a bigger character. I don't understand how Thrawn is a 3/9, but Tarkin is the power and health that he is, and Krennic is the power and health he is. It's insane. I almost feel like this is misprinted, but it's not. It's what we got. Thrawn is absolutely insane as a leader. Again, I keep harping on it. It needs to be understood, the knowledge you gain and the power that this puts in your hand to be able to say, you know what, that unit doesn't do a thing this turn, or this round. Huge. As per earlier, with Thrawn being the cunning villainy leader, that means that he's not the vigilance villainy leader. We pretty much already know that's Iden Versio, and he's not the command villainy leader. We're very sure that the command villainy leader is Emperor Palpatine. Less sure because we haven't seen an image of the card itself, blurry or whatever, as I am at least with Iden Versio. But that locks down all of the villainy leaders for the first set. And I think that Iden and Palpatine are really good options for vigilance and command respectively. And Thrawn being a cunning leader really opens up a lot of interesting gameplay. If we can get some more Imperial units for cunning, that'd be great. But even if we don't, just go command and you'll have access to all of the command Imperials, and it's insane. Or do the same thing with vigilance, or do the same thing with aggression. The field is open, but Thrawn is the basis for your deck is huge. and he does do something different for you, a different level of strategy than, say, Boba Fett. So even though you'd be running the same aspect for your leader, then the way you build your deck is probably going to be completely different. I'm excited to play Thrawn. I'm excited to get my hand on all of these cards. But Thrawn is definitely now up there as like, maybe this is the deck, one of the decks that I build right off the bat. Sabine, Boba, Thrawn, let's see where we go from there. Our last preview comes by way of the Unlimited FFG Twitter account, as it normally does on Mondays, although after this month, we'll see what ends up happening on Mondays. But it is a Cunning unit because that's what the next vote was after base. And let's get right to it. We have here the Outer Rim Headhunter, a 2-cost Cunning space unit, 1 power, 3 health, Fringe Vehicle Fighter. It has Raid 1, which means it gets +1/+0 when attacking. On attack, if you control a leader unit, you may exhaust a non-leader unit. It is a common, number 208 out of 252, and SOR, and this is a fantastic little Z95 Headhunter. Now, we've seen a Z95 before, a heavily modified and custom Z95 in the Distant Patroller over on the Vigilant side, but this guy here is a little extra attacking, a little extra defendy, and on top of that, if you control the leader unit, you can exhaust a non-leader unit anywhere on the board, whether that's yours or your opponent's. I don't know why you would use yours unless there's a crazy, when exhausted, do this effect, which I doubt we see in the first set. But shenanigans abound because the universe is in fact unlimited in Star Wars Unlimited. This is a dope ship, 2 costs. This is exactly what Cunning wants to slot into its space package. A 3 of this means that it's at least coming in for 2 when it attacks, either on a unit or a base. And if you do get that attack and you have your leader unit out, which Cunning can, Thrawn is a hefty dude, 9 health, Boba Fett can do it at a certain period of time. And if you prep for it, play this the round before, then the round after, deploy your leader, attack with this thing, then you have the ability of being able to exhaust something you don't want your opponent to attack with. So the sequencing will be very interesting on a card like this. Anything that potentially could give this ambush could also surprise that into combat. This is not something I would say you would want to use the energy conversion lab on, but if you can find another source of play a unit, it has ambushed this phase, that would be pretty cool. Neat little ship, ready to go. Z95s are dope. I have always loved the little underslung missile launchers these guys have. So, fantastic, cool little card. On November 8th, Fantasy Flight Games did the last of its, technically 5, but 6 total, Aspect Preview streams. And this stream was my favorite stream for my favorite aspect. That's right, it's Cunning. So we have a little bit of a rundown here of what was actually occurring over the stream. We have Xander Tabler titled on stream as host, but Xander graciously responded to a request of his official title that I asked for. So Xander Tabler is the Community Engagement Specialist for FFG and Star Wars Unlimited. So that's why he's now the host. He's the captain now. We also had Tyler Parrott, senior game designer, heard from him a bunch. We have a new game designer, not for the game, but on stream, and his name is Joe O'Neill, just titled as game designer. So Joe and Tyler were able to bring some really cool insights to Cunning. We're gonna go over all of those right now. Cunning is an aspect of disrupting the opponent in the moment, keeping them off balance. Surprises, tricks, unpredictability. When Cunning is involved, anything can happen. And we've seen a lot of that with the previews that we've been generating. I'm not going to go over every single preview that they did here again because we've already got those in the stuff before. But even before this specific stream, things like Waylay, Surprise Strike, Han, all the other different things that were available to Cunning to start off with before the aspect preview, we knew Cunning was effectively the disruption aspect. One of the things that was said here is that Cunning cares about non-unit cards as part of their tricks. We've seen that. Look at the top card of the deck. If it's not a unit, you do a thing, those types of things. Really cool style for Cunning, and even kind of just having that level of information, such with Thrawn, he may not necessarily care about what the card is on the top, but he cares about the costs, and that can help you do things, but also gain that knowledge. Spark of Rebellion to be able to look at your opponent's hand, things like that. Cunning should feel like if you are being successful at the game, you are quote-unquote cheating. I'm not particularly a fan of this level of comparison, but it does make sense because Cunning likes to do a lot of things that you're not normally going to be able to do with the other 3 style aspects, or kind of just in games in general. Cunning wants to be able to do a lot of different things well and for a better cost than what other aspects can do, but the the cost to that is that Cunning does favor the early and mid game and sacrifices the late game to win in those two phases. Han highlights the in the moment nature of Aspect. Cunning is the most likely to sacrifice the future for the present. That's what I just said. Tempo. Cunning is the king of tempo. You start your tempo plays in the early game. You continue riding that high up into the mid game, and you should be done by then. If you're going over into the late game and into the end game, you have a problem. The things that Cunning wants to do is they have resource exhausting and tempo acceleration, resource readying. They have the ability to bounce units. They have focus on non-units, specifically events. Most cards that do care about events and the event variety. And events do something right now in that moment that the opponent didn't necessarily expect, such as Waylay bouncing a unit, or Surprise Strike saying, hey, you thought this was a 3-4 coming at you. Surprise Strike says it's a 5-4 coming at you. They do have a focus on units with ambush. They have units when played, they enter ready. So we've seen a bunch of the ships. The Falcon comes in ready. Fett's Fire Spray comes in ready if you have a Fett on the board, those different types of things. Cunning likes to exhaust units and resources, which we said a little bit earlier, and Cunning doesn't want to get blocked, so they're trying to stop your opponent from being able to do that, or at least eliminate the Sentinels off the board by either sending them back to hand or defeating them with other methods of damage. Say, playing an event, having Bosk on the board, being able to deal the damage after the event is played, doing something that allows you to at least get over the block with a higher power event, such as Surprise Strike. Cunning also likes cheap space units. We've seen a few of those. Falcon, for what it does, is insanely cheap, but you have to pay for it every round. We have the Outer Rim Headhunter, which we just saw. There's the Mining Guild TIE Fighter, which we saw last week. Lots of cheap little units. One of the things we did get is Tyler's favorite Cunning card is Spark of Rebellion. Reveal the hand, discard a card. I agree. That's probably one of the best, if not the best, Cunning card. I value the ability to affect the board immediately rather than affect future plays more highly than the future plays. And that's just because it's easier for me to parse what's on the board rather than what's necessarily coming. That's why I've never been good at like tracking in Star Wars CCG or pitch stacking in Flesh and Blood. Those are decisions that come into play 20, 30 minutes later rather than something that I can deal with in the moment right now. I successfully tracked once in Star Wars customizable card game. It worked really well, but the effort to do that was insanely awful. It is also the first non-Spectre unit Spark of the Rebellion is, which means there could be more. This could be the only one. I'm hoping there's more. It'd be cool to see a Spectre event in each style aspect. So we've seen Cunning. We're hoping to see one for command, one for aggression, and one for vigilance. Cunning generally randomizes or allows the player to choose effects. So it's a lot of it, I assume that the villainy one is going to be a little bit closer to the randomization of effects, while the heroism is I'm going to pick, but effectively it's never going to be the opponent picks for Cunning. They did specifically state that for the Cunning image on the card itself, it is solo. So if you go back and look at the other double aspect events that we've seen that represent each of the style aspects, Command is an original trilogy scene. So that's the War Room scene from Death Star 2 from Return of the Jedi. Cunning is solo, playing his cards in solo. Aggression is a sequel trilogy image, Kylo Ren blowing somebody up, and Vigilance is a prequel trilogy scene, which is specifically Anakin and Obi-Wan trying to save Padme from the slug things in episode 2. It's a very nice theme for the aspect cards. So we have not a lot of questions, but they are a couple different things. The Cunning stream seemed like it had less information than the aggression stream, but went on a little bit longer. I don't know how that exactly works out, but I have covered everything that was important from that. So we have here a question. Can Greedo search your deck for the discard? And the reason why this is asked is because it says discard a card from your deck as opposed to discard the top card of your deck. There was a clarification that no, when the effect says discard a card from a location other than your hand, it is always going to be the top card of that pile. So it's more often going to be just the top card of the deck, right? Tyler specifically described it as a wording thing for the card. I'm not sure I agree that they shouldn't have put top card of the deck, just so there's no issue with clarification of this. There's a lot of different ways things are written in this game that do cause unnecessary confusion. Say the difference between Kanan's effect of other specters on the board and Sabine's effect of other aspects on the board. Both of those work the same, but they're worded differently. So templating is something that I think will need to be worked on going into the future, but we'll deal with it. The SRD or CRD, Comprehensive Rules Document, is going to come out and explain a lot of these issues. I'm sure they're piling the questions on to get ready for that. We won't see that until we get closer to the release of the game, but it'd be really cool to be able to get a handle on all of these little different effects that have different ways of being written that do the same thing. Joe had told us earlier in the stream that he started working on a set later in the game. In the game's lifestyle, he is technically a new word designer / developer. And we had to ask, hey, Joe, what's the set number for your set? And he told us he started working on set 5. So we're not going to see Joe's cards for at least, probably at this point, 2 years. Because we're in November, a little bit less than 2 years, because we have to get through the first 3 sets, which are supposed to be, if I remember correctly, March, July, November, August, September, October. Yeah, November. And then if they keep that cadence March, July, November, we won't see Joe's set until July 2025. But he's hyped about it, and he said the theme is really cool. So hopefully both of those are correct. We like to hold him in chat. Hey, set 5 better be a banger, otherwise we're gonna come back and have words, right? Not really, but you know what I mean. Last couple of things is Tyler will be at PAX Unplugged with the FFG crew. They will be doing walk-up demos. I believe that is first weekend of December. I don't remember exactly. Lastly, behind Tyler on the board, I don't have a picture of it, there was a picture of Lando with a bunch of stormtroopers. The Lando art was acknowledged. Tyler knows it exists. It is a cool card, but we don't get to know about it today. Teasing us for the sake of teasing us. Never fine. But there is a Lando art card coming at some point. We speculated it was going to potentially be the Vigilance Leader, but who knows? Who knows what's happening? And that's all for the Cunning Aspect preview stream. And that is all she wrote for us this week. Cunning is cunning. We got a bunch of cunning cards, a bunch of design insight on cunning itself. I am excited to see more cunning cards as we go through. Having both of the villainy leaders, Boba Fett and Thrawn, depending on what I'm able to pull, those will probably be the first decks that I work on. And like I said in the Thrawn preview, they're probably going to be 2 different style decks. Boba Fett's more about pew, 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 shooting things off the board with your abilities and effects, while Thrawn wants to exhaust things to make it so that your opponent can't do anything to interact with your plays on their turn. That's fantastic. I am super excited for Cunning. I hope you are super excited for Cunning. Let me know what your favorite Cunning card you've seen so far. Let me know what your favorite preview is that you've seen so far in this week's video down below in the comments. That's all she wrote. Like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitch, Twitter, and all the other socials, things that I thought I had this down, but I definitely didn't have my outro down, which is fine. I don't want to do one of those pre-planned, just throw it into the video at the end of the second. I want everything to be natural and cool for you all over there in Star Wars land, Star Wars and Fact Unlimited. I'm excited. We'll see you all next week for more previews and more fun stuff. And that's all I got. I'll see you all in the stars.